Scotty, welcome to the podcast. This is a long time coming because I've had Nate on, I've had Kobe on, I've had Dew on, all the Blue Ocean boys, and we're finally got to you after almost a year, over a year of doing this. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm excited to dive into a long overdue episode with my man Scotty. Thank you for being here.
Likewise. It's been a while since we talked. I think last time we talked was on your birthday. I think we talked for a while on your birthday, probably a year ago now.
Yeah.
When about your birthday?
Yeah, July 13th, 2020. We had a long phone call. And
so it's been over a year.
That was one of the phone calls that made me realize how much I love talking to people and how much I speak about these phone calls often that I did with people. And I normally say, like, yeah, I put it out on Twitter that who wants to talk on the phone, and I was talking to random people, and I was having great conversations. But one of those conversations that I had was you, and I started the podcast and recording the podcast in August of 2020. So your phone call played a critical role in making this a reality for the past 180 episodes. How weird does that feel?
That's pretty cool. So 180 episodes in a year. Are you doing 3 a week consistently, or you just kind of do them when you feel like?
3 a week consistently, rep after rep after rep. And it's
and you've had some big names on there.
Yeah. Was it
Gary V? Who else you had?
Yeah, Gary V, Tom Bilyeu, Miami Mayor, Francis Suarez, James Altucher.
Miami Mayor, that's awesome.
Yeah, so pretty crazy stuff. But you know, I've seen you, and you haven't been on Twitter. When we first started connecting in June of 2018, you were tweeting probably 10 times a day. You were connecting, you were exploring, you were really putting yourself out there on a very large scale. And then, similar to me, you stopped tweeting, it seems like, entirely. Maybe you check in from time to time, you retweet something. My stint of stopping was a year, or about a year, but your stint has been around that same time. Like, why don't you use Twitter as much as you once did, and how has that changed? And give people some context for what you were like in 2018 and why you've went on this journey. We can go deep into it.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I've not really been off Twitter. I wish I could say I've been in nature and getting away from that Twitter dopamine bullshit, but I'm just reading Twitter. I don't really post much. I guess back in 2018, it was my business, you know, so I started tweeting a lot. At the time, actually, I think it was right towards the end of the Bitcoin crypto bull run, 2017 going into 2018, and I launched 2 different Twitter accounts at the time. One was about dropshipping, which I'd already been doing for like 5, 6, 7 months. And I was like, okay, so I know a little bit about this. This is what I've been doing. This is what's working. This is what isn't working. And then the other was about crypto trading, which I had been doing for about a week. And I'm like, I know nothing about this. And I'm sharing what I'm reading, what I'm learning, what I'm doing with results. And I sort of ran both Twitter accounts for a week simultaneously. Like, I decided to launch them at the same time. Sort of like a split test, trying to see what gets traction. Because I had a previous Twitter account from like one of the old blogs I ran, and so I was able to like retweet both accounts, see what gets traction, what doesn't, and turns out nobody cared about my crypto takes, and turns out everyone cared about my dropshipping takes for whatever reason. And at the time, like, dropshipping was so novel to Twitter. Nobody had talked about it. Nobody was really talking about ecommerce, dropshipping, or any of that. And all the guys, even that were established, were like hitting me up, like, yo, how do I get into this? Like a lot of the big names are still around, tweeting with huge followings. And I had to tell them, like, I don't know if this is for you. Like, you've got such a great business. Like, keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to be fucking dropshipping dog stuff. You know what I mean? So I did that for, I want to say the heavy tweeting stage was all of 2018 for sure. 2019, I don't know when I really stopped. At some point I made the decision just to go back all in on, actually no, for a while it was like we're still doing the info products, still doing mentorship, still doing consulting, whatever, but Nate was doing YouTube and I was running Facebook and YouTube ads for the business. So we sort of pivoted away from Twitter. What happened for me for both of us, for me and Nate, but especially for me, was my growth just sort of stalled. Like, it wasn't really growing anymore. And also, we were like, not to sound arrogant, we were like at the top of the mountain, and every new account coming up was just like taking shots at us. And I'm like, I have no upside of going back and forth with this dude. I have only downside, and anyone that doesn't like us is going to gravitate to this dude. So like, they were all having a pretty easy time growing because of that, and everyone was just taking the anti-us route, essentially. Some personally, and some just in terms of content, of like, these guys are preaching this, we do something else, which is cool. But we didn't really have anyone bigger to leech off of, if that makes sense. Like, we didn't have a bigger account where we could be like, this is why this is wrong, or this is why this dude's a retard, you know? So for us, or for me especially, growth kind of stalled, and I just ended up focusing on different stuff, back-end, Facebook ads, e-com, and yeah, that's kind of what I've stuck with.
What?
It's tough, man. Like, I used to write every day for daily emails. I used to write a lot of copy for e-com. I used to write copy for info products. I used to tweet, as you're saying, 10 times a day or whatever. When you stop doing that, it's hard. Like, it's hard to write 2 tweets a day.
Yeah.
Or like 2 tweets a week. That's hard to do because you're not in the flow of writing it. Once you start writing, it's easy, but
it's like
I'm just answering emails, talking to people. Yeah, it's one of those things. When you're not in the flow of it, it's hard to get the creativity rolling.
So what do your days consist of these days?
I mean, my work day these days consists of opening Skype, opening Slack, opening email, and answering whatever the fuck comes in. That's probably my primary task. And then I need to sort of set aside time a couple times a week to just think about shit, read stuff, read crypto stuff, read Amazon FBA stuff that I'm trying to get into, think about new ideas for stores, brands, new ideas for our existing store, maybe go through our ads, audit them, see, are we missing something, look through my own or our stores and see like, what could we do differently, am I missing something, look at other brands, what can we learn from them. So like, my daily task is just open up and figure out what the fuck has happened overnight, what's going on, what do people need from me, and then a couple times a week set aside time to actually think about stuff and try and come up with something new. But most of it's just like admin, managing the team, talking to people, making sure they all have what they need to do their job. Because everyone on our team is purely creative. We've got a guy who's making ads, we've got a guy writing copy, we've got a guy doing TikTok. Like, everyone on the team is purely creative, so I need to make sure that they're not bogged down with bullshit admin tasks, that they're not locked out of an account or something that's holding them up from doing their job. So that's most of what I do.
Yeah, it always seemed like you were good at managing people. I don't know if that is accurate from your perspective, but that from being an employee of you, it always seemed like you were on top of that aspect of it. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I don't know, I always got that role, partly because maybe I'm better at it than Nate. I do most of my stuff with Nate these days and have been for a few years. Maybe it's because I'm better at it than Nate. Maybe it's also because he's a lot better at the marketing side.
It's true.
Specifically, like, knowing what's going to be hot, what's going to be cool, what are people going to want. He's got a lot better, he's got his ear to the ground more, better finger on the pulse of sort of the American people than I do. So I don't know if it's because I'm good at it or just because I'm better at it than him or because he's better at other things.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I enjoy just doing whatever needs to be done, and I have a pretty normal job in that sense. Like, I answer emails, I answer Skype messages, I get on calls a couple times a week. I do think I'm good at sort of reading people, managing people's emotions, sort of managing your employees like that. But most of my day-to-day stuff doesn't require that. It's only a couple times a year that you're like, okay, you know, like when you have a situation come up, an employee's missing for a few days, like, what's going on with this Filipino VA that you've never talked to, that you've only been messaging on Skype, trying to figure out what's going on in her life, why is she missing, whatever. I do think I'm pretty good at that for whatever reason.
And what do you think is giving you the most joy today? Work or otherwise?
Easy. Jiu-jitsu, baby.
Yeah, I figured you're going to say that.
Yeah.
I
got pretty into jiu-jitsu.
When did that start?
2 years.
When did that start for you?
I started training possibly pretty much to the day, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and then...
Why'd you get into it?
I would say fucking Joe Rogan's always talking about it. I used to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast all the time back when he was on YouTube. So he was always talking about it. Enjoy watching the UFC. So I was like, fuck it, let's try it. And I did not love it like ASAP. I didn't love it day one like some people do. There was a definite sense of weirdness of like walking around barefoot on these mats with this fucking white pajama on, essentially. There was a clear sense of weirdness to it. But with time, I started liking it a lot. And then I did a competition a little over a year ago, like a year and a couple months ago. And I got my ass beat. And that I got really into it before that. And then I did not at all get discouraged by getting my ass beat. I just got into it way more after that. And for me, it's one of those things, the longer I do it, the more fun it gets. So... it's the greatest game of all time. I think it gets more fun because you start to see connections and you start to learn yourself without someone teaching you. You start to see connections yourself. So I think that's a really cool thing where you're rolling or you're learning a new technique and you just see a connection of like, oh, this is going to be great for my game because X, Y, and Z, because I'm always doing whatever. When you start to learn things for yourself, I enjoy learning. This is something I know about myself. Like, I enjoy learning languages. I've been learning Spanish, or I was learning Spanish. It's just fun to me. And jiu-jitsu is like the never-ending game, and it's physical, and it's a sport. It's like, I was doing boxing before, which was fun. I enjoyed it, but I didn't get hooked on it. I was doing it once or twice a week. It was cool. Hitting the pads, a great feeling. Sparring's fucking fun as hell. But I didn't get hooked on it. I wasn't lying in bed awake at night thinking about it, which with jiu-jitsu, for better or worse, I am.
You know, it's so funny because I was talking to my friend Lewis from Lewis and Kyle's show, and we were talking about how certain people don't have ego. We were talking about Tim Ferriss, how he doesn't have an ego. We were talking about this guy, Scott Young, who both are big language learners, and we said to ourselves, I wonder if because they've spent all that time in a state where they are vulnerable, not knowing in the language and forcing them to. But then I realized also just now from you speaking is like Joe Rogan learning the language of jiu-jitsu is also very humbling as an experience and leads you to have less of an ego. Do you think that's true, that idea, it's just a theory, could be completely off, but what do you think as someone who likes learning languages, likes jiu-jitsu? Is it humbling? Does it force you to have less of an ego?
I can't say that I have strong opinions on like the term ego, and I haven't really thought about the concept of an ego much. It's not something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. What I will say, a lot of people say jiu-jitsu is very humbling and just the most humbling thing there is. For me, I found boxing to be oddly more humbling because, I don't know, it was in boxing I've had opponents where they're just so much smaller and they're just so nice and they didn't even hit me. Like, we'd go 5 minute or 3 minute rounds, I guess, in boxing. They didn't even punch me and they stood in front of me in range and didn't throw a single punch, but I couldn't touch them because they're just so quick. And that's like, wow, like... And then they thank you for sparring with them, right? You're like, what are you thanking me for? Like, you obviously just did that whole round for my benefit or whatever. I don't know, boxing I find so much more humbling because it's so hard. Like, the boxing sparring is just brutally hard on the cardio. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, it's like, if you get dominated by a higher belt, it's not really humbling. Like, that's what's supposed to happen. I guess maybe it would be more humbling if I'd been training for 10 years and then you get like one of the top professionals that's like 16 years old. You get Kolobati coming in, he's like 16 years old and he crushes you. That might be more humbling, but right now, like, I'm a white belt still. The guys that beat me, they should beat me. It doesn't feel that humbling to me, although people always talk about that. It just, jiu-jitsu to me, I think some people try to make it like larger than life, like They try to say how there's benefits to your business if you learn jiu-jitsu, there's benefits to every part of your life. I think if you want to make more money and get better at business, you're better off not training jiu-jitsu and focusing 24/7 on business.
Yeah.
Go for a walk when you need a break. I don't think jiu-jitsu benefits your business. I think jiu-jitsu is just the most fun thing there is in my life. It's the most fun game. I don't think it needs to be more than that. It's the same thing with like self-defense. They're like, oh, is jiu-jitsu useful in self-defense? Yeah, probably in some situations. Like if you're at a house party, if I'm at a house party with Danny and Danny gets a little too drunk, I don't think you drink anymore, do you?
I do.
You get a little too drunk, you starting a fight with one of our buddies. If I'm a boxer, what am I going to do? Like fucking knock you out? I don't want to knock you out, you're a buddy. Like with jiu-jitsu, I can put you in the ground and control you. So in that situation, it's useful. If I get jumped on the street by 5 guys here in Colombia, probably not so useful. I'm probably not going to have much success with my triangle choke off my back. But it doesn't matter. Like I don't really care. In a sense, I care about the personal self-defense or whatever. But I've never been in a fight. Like I don't look for fights. I think I'm lucky because I'm tallish too, so I don't get picked on. But like I don't care about the self-defense aspect as much as it's just the most fun game that I've ever played. I don't think it needs to be more than that. It doesn't need to be a religion. It can just be a super fun game and go play it every day.
Yeah, it's interesting how we try to impose meaning on things that are very important to us. And I think we're all looking for a story. And also, in fairness to those people, they might be black belts or they might have been doing it for 10 years. So they see the progression of moves that they would have made in life if they didn't do jiu-jitsu or they did something else, right? So like they might have more perspective on us to create meaning and to see meaning. Is that possible?
Yeah. Also to give the opposite perspective, I know guys that were in a pretty dark place, alcohol, drugs, overweight, whatever. They get into jiu-jitsu and they just get hooked on it, and then they quit the alcohol, they quit the drugs, whatever, because they want to be training. They lose a bunch of weight because, I mean, who the fuck wants to do cardio? But when you start training jiu-jitsu, you do 3 hours of cardio a day, and it's the most fun thing in the world. So like obviously that's going to help you lose weight, and then you want to eat healthy because you want to make weight for jiu-jitsu, or you want to lose weight. It's like I've seen people have pretty dramatic transformations in their life because of jiu-jitsu. For me, that wasn't the case. Maybe because I always played sports. It wasn't like I was 28 and I started doing jiu-jitsu and it was the first time I'd ever done anything active, you know. So I guess for some people it's pretty life-changing. For me, it was just a fun game and no larger meaning than that.
Yeah, so it was so fun that you decided to, I guess COVID happened, and you said, I'm going to a different place entirely. I'm going to a different country, and I'm going to train jiu-jitsu. Is that part of the reason why you moved and jiu-jitsu? And
oh yeah,
what was your mindset when COVID happens in March of 2020? How do you navigate through that mentally, and what do you do physically?
So we knew about COVID earlier than most because we were dealing with the Chinese shipping stuff. And the thing with that is, like, if you're buying stuff in bulk from China, there's always some fucking crisis. Just today there was some message about how apparently the Chinese government is telling their people to stock up on foods and whatever. And when asked why, they're like, just shut up and do what you're told. People are speculating about some possible war with Taiwan or something coming.
Oh my God.
Just today. That's today I got a message about that. So there's always some shit going on in China. So I just assumed that COVID was another Chinese shipping logistical problem that will be solved whenever, and it's going to be a pain in the ass for a bit, and then I'll be fine. Then I flew back from the US where I was living for a while. I flew back to Switzerland. I was sitting at London Heathrow Airport at like 9 in the morning, completely fucked up from the time zone change. My dad texts me that the big sort of festival in my city, the sort of spring festival, has been cancelled. I'm like, wait, why was it cancelled? He's like, oh, the COVID stuff. I'm like, oh, there's COVID here. Like, I thought this was a Chinese thing. So that's when it became real. Switzerland was pretty cool about it for a long time. Switzerland was less locked down. Switzerland was like, masks don't work 4 months after every other country in the world was wearing masks. We're like, no, there's no proof it works. And they changed their mind on that. So Switzerland was pretty cool about it. I guess there was like 2-3 months where I couldn't train jiu-jitsu, but I'd only been doing it for 3-4 months, and then I had 2-3-4 months off, so I wasn't that into it yet. I was missing it, but whatever. I think gyms I think were closed for a while. I put up a boxing bag in my apartment, a heavy bag. That was cool. That's definitely not normal. Unlike you guys in the States, like in Europe, we have apartments, not houses. There's no garage to put up a boxing bag. Putting up a boxing bag in the hallway is definitely not a normal thing to do, but I did that. And then finally it opened up again, got really into training. Jiu-jitsu was good in Switzerland too. And then I went to Mexico to meet up with Nate, Andy, a couple of friends of ours. And then while I was there, it's just supposed to be a 2-3 week trip. And while I was there, Switzerland closed down gyms and everything. Then it got real serious with COVID. This is November 2020. And that's when it got real bad, in terms of lockdowns at least. And I decided to extend. I stayed about a month out in Mazatlan, was loving it, Mexico. And went back to Switzerland eventually, because I'm like, I live in Switzerland, I can't be staying out here indefinitely. Went back for like a month or so, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like, it is cold, it is wet, jiu-jitsu's closed, gyms maybe were open, maybe not. It was just not a fun place to be. And I decided to get back to Mexico, and that's what I did, and I stayed there for a while and really loved it. That's sort of what sealed the deal on wanting to leave Switzerland and live abroad full-time.
So you made that decision, full-time abroad?
Yeah, so I guess I made the call in about May of this year. We don't have 1-year leases like you guys do in the States. We just have indefinite contracts, and you have like a 3-month cancellation period. So we cancelled the contract, I want to say around May, June, and then I left Switzerland at the end of August.
I like your contracts way better than it is here. Right? Like indefinite contracts?
Yeah.
Is that better?
It works for Switzerland because Swiss people don't move around. Whereas Americans, I mean, think about where have you lived since you were 18?
Yeah.
Like, list up the places you've lived.
Yeah. College, home, San
college,
Diego,
yeah.
New York City, all over the place.
Right. Now, the guys from my high school, I want to say all of them still live either with their parents in the suburbs, or they live in the town where the university is, like 10 minutes away.
Yeah, so
imagine if all your friends had moved to New York City and nobody had left since high school.
Yeah.
That's what Switzerland is. Whereas in the States, everyone's moving around year to year. Even interstate, like when I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, living there with Nate, like I met people who, born in Wilmington, moved to Raleigh for university and are now moving to Charlotte for work. Well, that does not happen in Switzerland like that.
Yeah, think about it though. We are the descendants of people who literally moved. So it's in our genes to some respect to move, to not be in the same place, to go.
Yep.
Because our ancestors literally said, we're going to go to a faraway place that there's no Google for, but we're just going to go. We're just going to go across that huge body of water. There might not be anything on the other side, but we're just going to go. Like, that's where...
And when you arrive, you didn't just stay there.
Yes.
Like some crazy fucker always decided, let's go west. Let's keep going.
Yeah, so back to you. How much of your desire to move, desire to be an international business owner comes from the fact that everyone you know is in the same place? How much are you pushing against that notion?
Oof, that's a good question. Not really thought about that in that sense. Maybe that's subconscious. I always kind of knew that I didn't want to live in my town in Switzerland. I always wanted to leave when I was 15, 16. That was, I guess, the motivation for starting my business back when I was like 16-ish. I wanted to make money because I wanted to leave. And people in Switzerland, they stay home a lot. And even when they do move out, they move to the nearby city for the university. So like, it's very realistic that most of my friends are going to live within 20 kilometers, like, what was that, 12 miles from where they grew up until they're like 26, 27, 28, it's very realistic that like 90% of the people who went to school with me are going to do that. And it's a small town. Like, it's not like moving to New York City where you're moving to one of the greatest cities in the world. Like, so I knew I didn't want to do that. Always somehow had that itch to leave and always wanted to move out early. I did that, and it was cool. And just, there's no reason for me to be in Switzerland if I'm making money online. That's the thing. It's like, Switzerland's so expensive, and it's expensive for certain things that I value a lot. So, I mean, my city is a mediocre city. I grew up near Basel. It's not like a great city by any means. I think most people that live there are there for a job. Like, they have good jobs there. They've got a good university or whatever. I don't have a job there. I don't go to the university there. It doesn't offer me all that much. And then the cost of living, like, apartments they're fine. They're normal. They're not incredibly expensive or anything. But going out to eat in Basel or in Switzerland anywhere is more expensive than New York City. It's more expensive than Manhattan. And you're not getting Manhattan quality food and nightlife. Like, there's certain things, like having a cleaning lady, insanely expensive. You just can't afford that in Switzerland. So there's certain things that are very expensive. Food, eating out, personal services like cleaning lady, getting someone to do your washing or whatever. Just stuff like that's not affordable. And having seen it in the US or in Mexico, I like that stuff, you know. I do like eating out. I like ordering food. I like nightlife and being in a small city. And there are no big cities in Switzerland, really. Your nightlife options are obviously limited, and I just always knew I wanted to leave Switzerland, and someday I'll probably be back when I'm old and retired, or go fishing 5 days a week, go hiking in the mountains. It's a beautiful country to visit, a beautiful country to raise a family, but I just don't think it's a good place to be when you're young, especially if you don't have to be there work-wise.
How many of your peers have followed a similar path that you know of in terms of going to a faraway place, creating a business, or just being different in that way? I assume that it's a very rare thing. And if you think it is rare,
I mean, it's 0%.
0%. So why does 99.9% of people stay versus you leaving?
I mean, you could talk about this in a general sense of like, why do people do the normal thing? And it's because everyone's doing it. But then also in Switzerland especially, the culture's not as entrepreneurial as they are in the States. Like, I remember I got a very bad haircut once in an American barber. Tried to walk into this barber shop that Nate told me was good. They're like, yeah, we have an appointment in like 5 hours. You need to book ahead of time. I'm like, So there was one across the street. I'm like, I'll walk in there. So there's a black barber there. So I walked into a black barber shop, fresh off the boat from Switzerland. And this barber gave me a 30-minute rant. Like, he would not stop talking. I couldn't get a word in. Just a 30-minute rant about entrepreneurship, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps.
Wow.
That's your barber. That is not going to happen in Switzerland ever. Like, there are entrepreneurs, there are startups, whatever. But I feel even Swiss startup culture isn't about like hustling and making money. I don't know, it's different. But then also, besides all that, kind of lost my train of thought. Life in Switzerland, if you're educated and get a good job, is pretty fucking good. Like, people from all over Europe move to Switzerland to work in finance, pharmaceuticals, whatever, and their quality of life is good because it's a beautiful country, very safe. There's no bad neighborhoods in Switzerland. Beautiful country, beautiful landscape, great things to do, very high salary, high cost of living to go with it. But what that means is you're in the middle of Europe. It's a tiny country. You're making a Swiss salary. Anywhere you go for the weekend, for vacation, is going to be cheap. Anywhere. You can go to London and it's cheap.
Wow.
So people come from all over Europe and they love Switzerland. And again, the quality of life is good. Healthcare, more vacation time than the US, less of a hustle culture, more of a... We don't enjoy life quite as much as our southern friends in Italy or Portugal or Spain, but still think there's more, probably like happier people on average than in places like the US where it's all about hustle and grind.
What?
I might be entirely wrong about that. I think the suicide rate's pretty high in Switzerland. But that's my subjective stance, not based on any data or facts.
Yeah. And talking about being alone and being in a different country, what are some of the disadvantages that people might not see or think about that you're in a completely different country? It sounds amazing, right? Different country, Mexico, Colombia, you go wherever you want, United States, obviously. Like, what's the disadvantages of doing what you do? And what do you say to yourself, oh, I kind of wish it wasn't like this, or I wish I could change this aspect of my life?
Okay. So I guess people call it like digital nomads, what I'm doing right now, where I'm like a few months in each place, traveling around. I don't really want to do this long term. I want to have a city I live in for at least 6 months of the year. Reason being, what I see in my friends that are traveling around all the time, they are never happy anywhere. They're never content. The grass is always greener. There's always something that's wrong with the place you're in. Food isn't good. Weather isn't great. Nightlife sucks. People suck. There's always construction outside my building. There's always something wrong with wherever you are, and you're always thinking about going somewhere else. And all your friends and all your buddies are in the group chat telling you about how great whatever place is. They might not even be there. They just read about it on Google. So you're never content. You're always thinking about what's next. You're always going new places. That's for sure one thing. That's, I think, the big thing that people don't talk about. There's the obvious things like not having as many bros or friends around, which can be easily negated by making plans with 1 or 2 bros and going to a city. Like, we did it right when I was in Mexico for those 5-6 months. We had like a group of 4 or 5 guys that were all in the same place and we're all staying there, and that was fantastic. Unfortunately, that's not really going to happen easily again because it was during COVID. Most of Mexico was restricted. Where we were was not restricted. They gave 0 fucks. The cartel runs it, and the cartel says we're staying open, so we're staying open. So getting that situation again is unlikely in that sense, where you might make plans to go somewhere with people, but like a month and a half in, they're going to be dipping out because they read something about some random place in South America or Europe or whatever. So that was a cool situation that kind of created by coincidence. And I mean, other disadvantages, having close guy friends with locals. I mean, I don't even know. I've had some close-ish friends that when I was in Mexico that only spoke Spanish, which was tough. Because I mean, you can learn Spanish good enough to talk to chicks a lot easier than you can learn Spanish to have close guy friends. Because with the chick, it's always kind of like you're into her, she's into you. That like bridges a lot of the language gap. Whereas with guy friends, like you got to fucking be able to hold a conversation. You have to be able to do more than hold a conversation. You have to be able to talk shit, and that's harder in the higher level of Spanish. Or you're gonna have guy friends that speak English, which I think in jiu-jitsu you're gonna meet a lot of educated people that speak English anywhere you go. Other disadvantages. I mean, I'm sure some people like their cars. I don't particularly care for the car. You can't bring your car easily when you're traveling around. I don't know. You tell me. You've been to Colombia.
Yeah.
What do you think of Colombia? Are you going to move here anytime soon?
No Colombia move for me. But the language is the barrier for me personally. It's very difficult for me to connect with people, and that's on me. Like when we went to Colombia, I didn't know another language, and it's a real difficult thing for me to get over because I feel like a baby, right? Like I feel like you need to help me. Like I need someone's help to just do basic things. And so that's a humbling experience. And yeah, but how long could you see yourself doing this for?
Forever.
You just said you do.
I mean, doing this, I'm not doing the whole traveling around place to place forever thing.
Yeah.
Living abroad, maybe forever.
Gotcha.
Maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years.
Who knows?
I have this idea in my head that I might want to move back to Switzerland to have a family there. That's like a comfort thing where I grew up in Switzerland, and I feel like I turned out pretty well. I had a good upbringing, so I think that's the only place you can raise a family, because that's what I did. So despite living abroad, I still kind of think that way when it comes to maybe having a family in the future. So I don't know. I could live abroad forever, maybe.
Well, did you like how your childhood turned out? I assume so, because you're talking about how it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say I had a hard time in school, sort of with, I wouldn't call it bullying, but just like people talking shit, and I was uncomfortable and shy when I was really young. And then the higher I got up in school, like primary school, I didn't like. Like I said to my teacher, like, I hate school, I want to leave as soon as possible. He just laughed and he said, I think that's a shame because you're pretty good at it, and I think you're going to be here for a while more. He was right about that. But then as I got higher in the grades, so in Switzerland they split you up at like age 11, which is kind of fucked up, into like 3 levels of like how good you are at school.
Wow.
And then at 15 they kind of split you up again, where some people go do apprenticeships and some people continue on just school. So the higher up you get in school, the more intelligent, or the better at school your comrades are going to be, and the fewer sort of shitheads that just talk shit and don't respect authority you're going to have. And the higher up I got in school, the better I got socially, the more confident I was, just the better life got in general. So I don't know if that answers the question about how my upbringing was, but yeah.
No, but take me through the difficult moments of getting bullied and stuff like that, and how you think that shaped you. I know as a kid you were investing in stocks at like a ridiculously young age. You were turning to the internet and turning to the ability to just look beyond your immediate surroundings. I'm curious if that, do you think it was a result of the bullying, or that was just something you were innately curious about?
I wouldn't say I got bullied.
Gotcha.
I just got, like, people talk shit, and I took it personally when I was young. I also was pretty aggressive. Like, I had a short fuse when I was very young, but I was biggish and strongish and played sports, so I could take care of myself. A lot of the guys that talk shit are small, so
Go figure.
kind of worked out in that sense. But I was kind of aggressive, short fuse when I was very young, and then I don't know, I just calmed down. I discovered lifting weights, self-improvement, reading books, and all this shit. Like, I don't even know what age. I was trying to make money online when I was 12. I remember that specifically because I got kicked off an internet forum for stating that I was like 12, and they were like, oh shit, like, really sorry that we have to do this, but you have to be 13 to use an online forum.
I remember those days.
It's like social media. I think you have to have a certain age, and I got kicked off for that. I was like following bodybuilding.com forum, trying to get info on lifting and stuff, and I was 12, 13, 14. Got into like social skills stuff, girls stuff when I was super young, and I mean, honestly, it changed my life. I mean, I went from pretty shy to just forcing myself to put myself out there and talk to people, and like that transformation sort of, like, I got really into it like maybe 13, 14, 15, and then age 15 I changed schools from middle school to high school, get a new peer group, and that change that had happened in me, improving my style, not wearing the fucking super dorky glasses I had. As soon as you're in a new environment, people meet you for the first time and they see you as this new person, whereas other people still kind of saw you as the old person. So it was funny too. I believe like in my last year of middle school, we had like a couple new chicks join our class, like 2 or 3 chicks, and the way they behaved towards me was already different to how the people that had known me from like age 11 had behaved around me. So it was cool to kind of see that transformation. And high school was great, had a lot of fun. School in Switzerland is different too, where we have like a fixed class pretty much, where you hang around with 15, 20 people and you have all your classes just about with them. Whereas in the US, you're like, this is my Spanish class, this is my English class, this is my maths class. So you have a lot more different people in your classes, whereas we're like a group and we do everything together. It's just different. What
was the biggest change you think you made from 11 or 12 to 14 that was most impactful? Because you were into all this stuff at a very young age, but somebody listening right now to this might be, 26 and just discovering self-improvement, how to make their life better today for the first time. So looking back, it might be different advice
the absolute basics
10 years ago, but like, what was
It's the absolute basics, man.
What was it?
It's like style, learning how to dress, getting into fitness. Like the time I was doing I think I was 12, I was doing push-ups with water bottles and books in my backpack because I couldn't go to a gym yet. I was too young. My parents wouldn't let me go to a gym till I was 14 because that's what the owner of the gym that my mom used to train at told him, he shouldn't start before he's 14. So I was doing push-ups with water bottles and shit and just working out at home secretly. I had to go into the bathroom, lock the door, and dude, I was a weird kid, man. But working out was huge. Learning how to dress was big. I had the shitty haircut where you have the
faux hawk?
I guess it was semi-trendy at the time. Is it a mohawk?
Faux hawk?
Maybe. It certainly looked horrible looking back on it. But I mean, who thinks they had great style at 12 though, right? So learning how to dress, forcing myself to sort of get out of my comfort zone, talking to people, talking to new people, talking to girls, talking to everyone. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Looks and talk to people.
And then bridge the gap for us between that time, 15, let's say, and when you start putting dropshipping content out on on Twitter. What's the in between to bridge the gap?
So I think 15, I changed from middle school to high school. Suddenly I was pretty popular.
Because you put in all the work on yourself?
All the work I was putting in. Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yeah. I was no longer dressing like a dork, and I could talk to people who are not super shy. That first year of high school, started getting invited to a lot of parties and going out. That was cool. That was a lot of fun. Really good time. I think probably I still think the happiest moments of my life perhaps were that end of middle school. There was a long summer where we had a longer than usual summer break and parties were just starting. That was, for some reason, just possibly the happiest period of my life to this day. But then that first year of high school, doing better socially, getting invited to a lot of parties. And I got a girlfriend after about a year. And then I was like, okay, so now I have a girlfriend. Getting invited to parties. I kind of did the thing I wanted to do, which was get better socially. What the fuck now? I need a new thing to do. So I got really into business then. That's when I started. It's just I'd done the thing I was trying to pursue, and now I needed a new challenge. And that challenge has stuck with me for the past 6 years, pretty much. 7 years? 6 or 7 years.
What was that first business you created?
And then I guess I was doing the whole blogging, writing, whatever, masculinity blog, health blog. I was just starting random sites, seeing what I could write and get traction with. What can I write and get ranking in Google? Doing keyword research, that kind of thing. Didn't work at all because fuck do I know at 16? Fuck do I have experience or useful anything to say? But what it taught me was how to write. Because although I'm a native English speaker, because my dad's Scottish, so I grew up speaking German and English, I never learned to write English. Because I learned English in school as a foreign language, but that's a shitty level.
What?
So I wasn't writing like an American. My writing was very mediocre, and because of the blogging, I got a lot better at writing somewhat quickly because I could do it every day. There was no need for a client to tell me what to do. I could just sit down and write every day. And I was very good at staying accountable.
Why?
I think that's generally something I'm good at, consistency. I'm just always been good at that. When I was learning Spanish, I did it every day and I didn't really miss a day. I don't miss days when I decide I want to do something. I've just always been good at that. So I got better at writing, didn't make any fucking money, and then decided if I can't make money in the next month with this, I need to do some freelance work and actually do work where I'm going to get paid instead of just fucking around pretending to run a business. And I did that, and I was like, oh, I learned how to write, and now I'm getting paid. It's pretty cool. For 2 weeks, and then you realize client work kind of sucks, and especially like the low level Upwork client work I was doing to get started, absolutely sucked. So I'm like, well, this sucks. I really need to get these SEO sites going because I don't want to be doing this bullshit. And that's what I did. Like shortly after making that first money from Upwork, I got niche sites to work. So I stopped doing like the general blogging and I went super niche on like random supplements, I think I did pretty well with like Kino body courses. I would just go through the courses and review them and write like the most detailed review there was at the time. And because nobody else wanted to write reviews, everyone wants to give their opinion on like what's the best program, like what's the best way to grow your chest. Everyone was writing that kind of article because it's more fun to write. Reviews aren't fun to write. You're not giving your opinion really. You're just essentially writing a glorified sales pitch, showing the product, explaining the pros and cons, and giving a sales pitch with an affiliate link. So I started doing that, and that started making me money pretty quick. So I did that for probably a year and a half maybe. I was doing pretty well with that. That was like my first... Dude, my goal with online business was to make $100 a month.
That's probably the lowest goal I've ever
I find that
heard.
so funny nowadays.
But I mean, do you think that helped you? Do you think that helped you? That I said that's the lowest goal I've ever heard. But do you think it helped you to set such a low bar because then you could win, and then after you win, you get excited and you keep going? So do you think that was helpful in a way, or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's the theory behind it. I was following Chris Dale something, Good Looking Loser, like an old website that is, I think, still around but pretty much dead. I was following his sort of game plan with niche sites, and also he said that, like, set yourself a super low goal so that you can hit it, and that fuels your bigger goals. That's kind of something that ran through all of his content. Honestly, I think his content was probably the most impactful on me socially as well. So then I was inclined to follow his advice on the make money stuff, because I'd seen the social stuff transform my life. I'm like, all right, this guy seems trustworthy. Don't really believe him on the bodybuilding stuff. It was super like bro science, and I was smarter than bro science because I'd been on the bodybuilding forum. Wasn't jacked or anything, but I thought it was smarter than him. So I followed his make money online advice. It worked for me. Setting small goals and then set bigger goals as you go along. I don't know if I'd recommend that to people. I've seen other people set huge goals and they need that. Like the theory of like, if you set your goal of like 100k a month, if you hit 20k a month, you'll still be happy, sort of thing. If you're actually happy with 20k a month, then your goal wasn't actually 100k. You just sort of said that in your head. To me, it feels like. And the opposite is also true. Would I really have been happy with $100 a month? Not for long. I don't think I ever made $100 a month. I think I went straight from like 0 to 500 and then to 1,000 then to 2,000. So it's a lot of nothing and then it goes real quick.
Yeah, so take us through the real quick.
At least that's how it was for me.
Take us through the real quick and what that was like, and when you say like, holy smokes, I was making 2K a month and now I'm doing really well. Like, what was that moment for you?
Well, I didn't go from 2K to really well, but I went from 0 to 4K-ish, maybe 3.5K-ish quickly. It's like I'd had like 6 months as 0, and then within 6 months I went 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, something like that. At age 17,
yeah,
living at home, no expenses, nobody knows what I was doing, and that was literally just I stopped writing generic life advice, danger and play type bullshit, and just started writing reviews of products. So I buy products, review them, do keyword research. Where is there a lack of reviews? Where I think there's demand for reviews, and the keywords were so low competition that I wasn't really doing any SEO. It's like people say SEO is super competitive, and I mean it can be if you want to rank for
NFT,
best whey protein. Like that's going to be, yeah, if you want to rank for NFT. But I was just writing super niche stuff where there wasn't a lot of other content, and I was writing detailed articles. I think that's also how I got on Twitter, because I realized that I could boost my SEO by tweeting out reviews and getting it shared. So that was really all the SEO I did. I never did link building or anything like that. Whether white hat or black hat, I just never did much link building. And my thing was super low competition keywords with low volume but some volume, and they have very high buyer intent. Because if you're searching for a review of Kinobody's whatever program, you know Kinobody, you like Kinobody, and you're highly considering buying it. So if you land on my article, pretty good chance you're going to buy it. The kind of bullshit part about the business model is that you're kind of just siphoning off a part of his sales. You know what I mean? Because they're already 90% in the way there, and you're taking whatever percentage commission for getting them the extra 10% in the way there. And that leads to a lot of the affiliate programs kind of screwing you over, where they're like, fuck these guys, they're not really bringing much to the table. Let's just cut them out. And that definitely happens again and again. And people complain about it, but it's part of the business model, and you're siphoning off 20, 30, 40, 50, 70% of the revenue for doing 10% of the persuasion, I think. So, fair enough if they want to cut you off.
Eventually, you just got.
This is me saying it 5 years later. I did not feel that way at the time, obviously.
Yeah, because it's probably really awful when someone who's giving you a large amount of money to you, they're just taking that off. Did that ever happen? Any of those situations where they just cut you off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, Google deranks your site. That happens. Affiliate programs change platform, where they're like, oh, we're moving to a new platform, and suddenly your sales aren't as high. You're like, my traffic didn't decline. Why have my sales in your quote-unquote tracking software declined?
So
stuff like that happens. Then some people just close their affiliate program.
Did you ever feel like doing affiliates like that was sketchy?
Doing affiliates like that, I never really felt was sketchy. Doing affiliate stuff like paid traffic to an affiliate link for whatever weird shit, that's definitely sketchy. Because that's how I got into paid traffic. Because eventually I was like,
what's paid traffic
for
people who aren't familiar?
Okay, so what I was describing before, you're writing articles and hoping that Google ranks you, and you don't pay Google anything. They just put you on there for when people search for whatever keyword, and you get traffic for free. Paid traffic is when I go to Google and say, I want to rank for this keyword, and you set up a campaign. I'm like, I want to spend $100 a day. Here's my budget. Here's how much I'm going to pay per click for this keyword. And Google, or you do the same thing on Facebook, you're paying to get traffic to your site. And I wanted to transition to paid traffic because I sort of stagnated around I want to say 5 to 8K a month. I stagnated with the niche sites where I had a couple really good niches that I was doing well in, but there's not a million niches there's probably quite a lot of niches, but there wasn't a million niches that I had in my head that I could pursue. And I was only going after easy keywords. I wasn't doing a lot of link building or whatever to go after the NFT keyword, which can make you millions a month. So I wanted to do paid traffic because I felt that's where I could scale more. Because with paid traffic, especially on Facebook, where there's so many users on Facebook and Instagram, if you can get something working, spending $50 a day, you can not quite double your profit, but just about double your profit by starting to spend $100 a day. And at least in theory, that's how it should work. So there's a massive scalability thing with paid traffic because you can spend a lot of money on Facebook ads. We've spent close to 10K a day for a while. 10K a day on advertising, generating profitable returns. And that's just not possible with SEO the way I was doing it.
So I want to continue on your story, but what point do you say to yourself, okay, I'm making 5 to 8K a month, I want to go into paid traffic? Was that a conscious decision that you made, or was it just
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, it was a conscious decision. So you go into paid traffic, and then is this when you start the dropshipping stores, or was there time in between?
There was a couple months in between where I was trying different stuff. There was Stack That Money forum, which is a paid forum. They do a lot of, or they did at the time, I don't know what they're talking about these days, or if they're even still around. But at the time, they were doing a lot of paid traffic affiliate stuff, which seemed like an obvious transition. Stuff's pretty sketch, generally not on Facebook. A lot of it's direct linking, where you're only running the ad and you're linking direct to someone else's landing page. It's kind of where's the value add? What are you actually doing? I never really made much money with that. I mean, I ran some offers profitably, but a lot of the time you don't reach enough money to reach the payout level in the affiliate program, or the affiliate program screws you, or XYZ happens, or you don't make enough money to make up for the losses in testing. So I never made any money with that. And it was also sketchy. I was like, what am I really doing here? I was running stuff in Portuguese. I was running ads in Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese. So you're stealing someone else's landing page, running traffic to it, just because somebody told you that Brazil on this traffic platform, on like weird platforms, you're running on like sketchy sites, you're running ads on like movie sharing sites, like pop-up ads on there. So it's just like, it's not really what I want to do. I was like, I want to do something a bit more legit. And still on that forum, I started reading about affiliate stuff on Facebook and Instagram, or Facebook ads. I was reading a lot of people saying that you're going to get banned. Facebook hates affiliates. And I mean, in hindsight, that's partly true, but Facebook also hates everyone. Like, whatever you do, Facebook is gonna ban you when you're getting started.
That's meta to
like
you.
In hindsight, that meta, Jesus. It's like people were saying you can't really do Facebook with affiliate stuff. So I'm like, well, what can I do then? And the answer was e-commerce. You can do dropshipping. Dropshipping is like essentially similar to affiliate marketing in that you're not building your own brand, you're not holding stock, it's very low risk, easy testing. A lot of the methods from affiliate marketing of rapid testing a lot of offers, testing a lot of landing pages, testing a lot of ads, a lot of that stuff carries over to dropshipping. But then you actually have your own store, your own landing page. You have to do a little more work there, and you're building your own customer list, you're building your own Facebook page, you're building your own brand a little bit, kind of. So that was like a step up towards a real business and something that was more Facebook friendly. People were saying at the time. And I mean, it was definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
so that's how I transitioned.
You transitioned to dropshipping, and then you start doing dropshipping. You put out a course. It's successful. I take the course. I become an affiliate for the course. I start working for you. Like, there was a whole story between us in this time of you starting dropshipping, and you end up working with Nate.
Yeah.
That Nate ends up being your premier student, who then becomes a partner. I mean, are you still dropshipping to
and my roommate
and your roommate? Yeah, still dropshipping to this day. What do your businesses look like at this point in time, and how do we get from realizing that you should be doing paid traffic on Facebook to dropshipping stores to now doing what you're doing today?
Yeah. So where do we start?
2018.
I guess we start with a course. I'd been doing it for like 5-6 months, and I found success really quickly with dropshipping. I actually bought a store, which is cool because I had money coming in. This is part of the thing about dropshipping where a lot of people want to get into it, but they're broke, they have no money. I'm like, I don't know if this is the right business model for you, because number one, you're going to spend money before you make any money. You're probably going to lose money when you're starting. Even if you're successful, with dropshipping not so much, but if you want to have a long-term successful business, you're going to have to buy inventory. So even if you're profitable, the money is going into inventory. It's not going to pay your bill, and it's certainly not going to buy your car. So it's not the business where you start doing it, and if you're successful, you make a ton of money. It's not where your bank account goes up dramatically quickly. It requires reinvestment. It requires money up front to start. But I had money up front to start. That was the cool thing, because I have no living expenses, and I still have money trickling in from my niche sites, which is like passive income. It eventually dies out. It always eventually does. But for a while, it's very passive, where you're doing nothing. Maybe like releasing a couple articles a month, and you still have 5, 6, 7, 8K a month coming in. So that allowed me to launch dropshipping with sort of no fear of losing money in that sense. And also I bought, I want to say 2 sites. I think I bought one content site similar to what I was doing previously, and I bought a dropshipping site. So pretty early on, I tested like 2 offers, didn't work at all, they sucked. Then I bought a site, and I saw a lot of the things that I was doing wrong when I bought a site that was working. It wasn't like super profitable, but it was making sales, and it was making sales profitably. And I'm like, oh, this guy's got a killer offer. He's got a lot better content than me, and his site looks a lot better than me. So I'm like, well, right there, you got 3 things that I was fucking up with. And those are the good old days of the free plus shipping offer. So I was like, free plus shipping offer, this is it. And he was running Facebook ads and kind of struggling with it, which is why he wanted to sell the business. I think he was also selling only in Germany, where I'm like, well, this is going to be easy. Like, I speak perfect German, but I also speak perfect English. Let me take this to the United States. So I did that. I think I don't think he was doing influencer shoutouts, so I added that because at the time, like, Hayden Bowles, Blondie from YouTube was like the big influencer. And he was all about the influencer shoutouts, so I was doing that and it worked. Like, I just found a couple pages that was like printing money. So that was pretty cool.
And then you create a course on it?
And then, yes, then I start tweeting about it. Nobody cares about my crypto tweets. People do care about my dropshipping tweets. And then, like, after a month in, people start asking you for a course. I'm like, what do you mean a course? Like, I started tweeting a month ago. I was taught by, like, my idols at the time that you blog for years and then you release a course. And these dudes are asking me for a course, like, 3 weeks in. I'm like, shit, I better make a course. So I did, and I launched that. And again, it was like, my goal was to make, like, hey, if this makes $3K a month with, like, just a bit of tweeting, that'd be fucking awesome. And then you launch and you make more money in, like, launch week than you'd ever made before. And you're like, oh, I think there's something here.
What was your reaction? What was your
so, like, mindset? I was just insane.
And how much did you make? What was your mindset, and how much did you make, and what was the feeling at that time?
I actually don't remember what I made that first week. It was, I want to say, in the range of 25 to 45K profit or revenue, something like that in a week. Mm-hmm. Of course, it isn't really in a week because you worked on it for 2 months to make the course. But it feels like it's super fucking fast money. When you launch, it goes live and just, like, takes off like that. You're like, Jesus fucking Christ. And a lot of that, in hindsight, was because I was the first guy talking about it. And then this dude, Nate, just has absolute crazy success right out of the gate. Like, I mean, he didn't even take my course. He was just talking to me in the DMs. And that just gave me credibility. Because I never really talked numbers or did anything like that. I also wasn't making crazy money like Nate was. But I just never really shared money because it just didn't seem relevant to me. And, like, part of it wasn't believable because, like, if I told you at the time I was making $8,000 a month from these shitty little niche sites, you wouldn't have believed it. And, like, I wouldn't have believed it if you told me that you'd making $8,000 off these sites. It's just like, I don't know, I never really shared numbers. I decided that early. I had, like, a shitty slogan was credibility through content, or content, like something like that. Super shitty. I've never been good with the naming. But Nate gave me a lot of credibility because he was making good money very quickly, and he was like, well, fuck, when I have a question I ask this guy. And also Nate has a fucking, especially then, had a huge fucking mouth. He was so fucking confident. Everything he touched turned to gold for a while. He was on top of the world, talking shit, flexing, buying the car, moving to New Zealand or whatever. He was the perfect personality, the perfect social media guy. I don't think us Europeans, British people especially, I don't think they're well suited for social media, the Twitter game. I just don't think they're not good at the bragging, they're not good at the showing off, they're not good at talking themselves up. Americans have mastered that art. So Nate really helped me with that. And then again, there was magic. There was a magical moment there where I was like, we were the only people in the space. Nate was having crazy results. Nate's Twitter was blowing up because he was funny and brash and confident and young, had a great backstory. I didn't really have a great backstory. I'm like, yeah, so, like, I'm still in high school. I still live at home. I actually have no car. I actually don't spend any money. Don't actually do any cool shit. I mean, I do cool shit because I'm Swiss and we can go on vacation, but I don't actually go on vacations that my other Swiss buddies can't afford. Like, they can all afford that off their allowance. I'm not actually doing anything cool with this money, whereas Nate was. But then also, a lot of the British guys and a lot of the people who don't like the guru, the typical guru, I think they were then attracted to me for being like the quieter guy, more low-key. So it was just a great combo with me and Nate there. It worked great. And
you guys are still working together to this day, which is pretty crazy, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, ironically, at the time we weren't actually working together. It was just he was building his stores, right, and I was building my stores. We were both tweeting. We were growing our audience together, but it wasn't like we were working together. He was an affiliate,
yeah.
But later on, like now, we do everything together. Essentially,
what is everything? what business is?
Everything is, so I run one main e-commerce brand. That's with Nate. We were testing other offers, trying to get a second brand, other stores up and running. I have one sort of semi-public brand, Sleek Inc., sleekinc.co. I run that with a different partner, not with Nate, just because we'd started it before I started doing everything with Nate. But everything going forward is with Nate. All our e-com brands are together. If I have an idea and it fucking blows up, Nate's going to own half of it.
Wow.
And that's just the way it is. If he has a great idea and it blows up, I'm going to own half of it.
Why are your souls so connected and aligned? Like what has made the relationship last for 3 years? Not necessarily that long, but it feels really long being in it with you guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I guess part of it's success. Like most of my business partners that I've split up with hasn't been because of a falling out. It was because like this just isn't working as well as we'd hoped. So like, let's end this. With Nate, it's like shit's worked. The course stuff worked. The e-com brands worked. Like I started the current brand that we're running, and I'm like, shit, if I owned 100% of it, I'd be making so much money. But it's like, I actually wouldn't be, because it wouldn't be as big as it is. Does Nate do a lot of work on it? Not really. Do I do a lot of work on it? Also not really. But we built a team, and I wouldn't have had the balls to take on that payroll and hire these people if I wasn't doing it with Nate. It's like, I'm ironically like risk averse. Nate is not. Nate is full on risk all day, every day. I'm risk averse naturally, which sounds funny with like having like, I think I calculated the other day, I have like 400 to 450k USD worth of inventory right now. We have 10 tons of inventory sitting in our lab or in our fulfillment center.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like, ironically, I'm risk averse, but yeah, I wouldn't have been able to blow up as much without Nate. And then on the flip side with the course stuff, like I wasn't making YouTube videos. I was going behind the scenes, enjoying life without people fucking talking shit to me, without having to be a public figure, without people recognizing me, without all my friends knowing I'm making money, without having to do all the work that is info products and making YouTube videos. Because that's a lot of work. That's a lot more work than e-com. E-com, once it's set up, you're running ads, you know. Making a course, like that's a lot of fucking work. I was working many more hours when I was making courses back a year or two ago. So it just worked out. I profit off the success of Nate's personal brand. He profits off the current brand. Any future brands we start, now we kind of have to share the brands, because me and Nate, we both sometimes think like, shit, I wish I had just something for myself, where I was just like, just do it myself, you know? But then you think, okay, what does that mean? That means I need to run the ads myself. Because I want to launch stores myself. I don't want to run the ads 12 months later still. I don't want to be clicking buttons in Ads Manager. That's not what I want to be doing. Never mind the fact that all of our Facebook accounts are banned, and our team has a process of getting ad accounts. We have a process for getting ad accounts. We have a process for getting personal accounts. I don't really want to fuck around with that myself. I'd rather have our team members do it. I'd rather have our team making creatives, our team getting content, our team running ads, our team writing copy. I don't want to do all that. So now if I want to start something myself, I can't really use the team that we've built up and the resources that me and Nate share. I can't really use that for my own personal project. So now it just kind of makes sense, because of the team that we have and the structures we have, to do everything together.
It's really wild to think that just a chance encounter leads to, I mean, maybe it's not a chance encounter, but it's like one person can completely alter the trajectory of your life and decisions you make, and sometimes, often, you have no control over whether or not you meet that person, what happens when you meet that person. Just interesting to think about. I want to ask about it's
a Twitter DM.
Yeah, just a Twitter DM.
Sends me a Twitter DM, like, yo, can you retweet this thread? Like, how often do you get that tweet and you're like, fuck this guy? Or how often do you get that DM, you're like, fuck this guy, like, he's just asking for free promo, not providing any value to me. But time I retweeted it was a good thread. We start talking, and the rest is history.
And you mentioned before about your accounts getting banned, and I would love for you to explain that for people who aren't familiar with the Facebook process and why your accounts have gotten banned? Because you just threw that out there and people are like, what? His accounts get banned? What is going on there?
Yeah, like Zuck doesn't like money. No, Zuck does not like money. So if you're running ads on Facebook, your accounts are inevitably going to get banned. Your ad account, which is what you use to advertise, gets banned. Your personal account gets banned from advertising. It just happens. The reason why it happens is, for one, some people are running sketchy shit and the system flags it and they're like, you're not allowed to do this, you're banned. But the system isn't a human, it's a machine. It's a Facebook algorithm that tries to catch stuff that goes against their terms of service. So if the machine flags you, you get the account disabled, then you can review. I think maybe it's a human review sometimes. It's like you then have to hope that you win on appeal. And especially when you're getting started, if you're just starting advertising, new store, you're going to get disabled a ton. Or not a ton, you're going to get disabled guaranteed 1, 2, 3 times. And you have to make sure that you're following all the policies first of all, and then you have to peel the ban and hope that the human looking at this isn't having a bad day, isn't fucking on the rag or some shit, and decides to overturn the machine decision essentially. The problem is you can't call up Facebook. You can't be like, hey, suck, like, stop being a cuck and unban my accounts. It's like you just have to hope that you get through the appeal process. And Facebook is notoriously horrible with this. Snap, TikTok, even Google, they're all better with like actually getting a human on board. We're selling on Amazon now for all of the stuff I do. I get an email, like I've done no sales, but I get an email from like my personal Amazon rep. I'm sure he's not the highest level rep or whatever, but he gets on the phone with you as a guy in the States, starts explaining stuff to you. Facebook, we've spent, multiple millions on ads, and we have no contact there.
What could you...
You have people calling you up, they're like ad experts that suck, but like you don't have an actual point of contact that can help you with an actual problem. It's crazy with Facebook, but their algorithms are so good. Even though this year they've gotten worse with like iOS 14 updates and stuff like that, the algorithm is so good that although we hate them, we use them because they're just so fucking good.
Yeah, it's wild how that happens time after time, and was happening back when I was doing dropshipping in 2018, and it's still happening to this day. Crazy to think about.
The thing that, I don't think that's ever changing on Facebook. I think this is company policy and they're set in their ways. I don't think it's changing. What you do have to realize though, a lot of people get discouraged with e-com or dropshipping. They see like Facebook ads, like it's just not viable if they can just shut down my account at any time and I don't get it back. This is a valid concern and has always been a valid concern, but if I'd listened to that valid concern, I would be a lot poorer right now. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's theoretically smart advice that hurts people.
Interesting.
So like, I'm not gonna do Facebook ads because they can shut me down. I don't want to be reliant on one platform or whatever. It's theoretically smart, but bad advice. It's just really bad advice in my opinion. And what happens is once you have more spend, you don't get banned. I'm not going to say how long we haven't had a ban because that's for sure bad luck. But we're not dealing with Facebook bans on our existing stores. So it's when you're new, you get a lot of shit.
Yeah. What could you tell people about advertising, about human psychology from spending millions of dollars on Facebook?
Okay. I think everyone should learn direct response marketing. Everyone should get a basic direct response marketing. What is direct response marketing? Direct response marketing is the type of marketing that actually works. It's not just professor talking bullshit about some study he created and some research of looking at Coca-Cola ads. Direct response marketing is the truest form of marketing, in my opinion, and in the opinion of everyone that has read the same books that I've read, because you spend $100 and you see what comes back. You're not spending money for brand value. You're not spending money. It's not a Super Bowl ad. Like, the guys don't know what the Super Bowl ads create. Coca-Cola doesn't know what any one of their ads creates. Like, they just don't know. And we do know. We track what we spend and what comes in on campaign level, ad set level, ad level. So we learn what works and what actually works. We're not just guessing. And direct response in that sense is an awesome thing to study, because over the years, practitioners have learned a lot from like millions and millions and millions of dollars of testing. They've looked at the results and seen what works, what doesn't. It's more scientific than billboard advertising, whatever you might have. Everyone should learn direct response advertising, and you learn there that a lot of things that general advertisers do aren't very effective. And a lot of stuff that works really fucking well would never get approved at a big company, because they're sitting there in their marketing conference, you're sitting there with your boss, and you just... Perfect example, okay, for Facebook specifically. Very high quality, nice looking, professionally shot content like you might see by Nike generally doesn't perform as well as an iPhone selfie or a very simple photo. Why? Well, because what are people on Facebook for? Are they on there to see professionally shot content and ads? Or are they on there to see pictures from their friends and family, a video from the sports game of the weekend? They're trying to see stuff that people have shot. Like, you're on Instagram to see people's pictures and videos. And if your ad looks more like what the other content on there looks like, it doesn't immediately scream ad. And you can catch their attention with your product or with whatever without them just scrolling right past it, because they recognize it as an ad. And the more professional you are, the more obvious you are an ad, the less attention you're often going to get. That's one of the, honestly, the biggest like red pills in advertising, where it's like the super sexy, high production value stuff often doesn't do as well as super simple, lower production quality stuff that just has a good idea. It needs to be attention grabbing with the idea, with the angle, whatever, but not with high production value. That's a surprising thing for a lot of people. Because
people inherently want to see, one, things that they expect to see on a platform, but also they want to see human stuff. And a high production value video often doesn't feel like it's human. It feels like it's corporate, or it feels like it is not authentic to the platform. So it makes people wary initially.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And people have a hard time getting their head around this. Even when you tell them, they still want that really high quality content, and we're still guilty of it. We still try and get super high quality content. Everyone wants that. We all want to be like Coca-Cola and Nike. Because I mean, frankly, who the fuck am I to say that my advertising and the way we do shit's better than Nike and Coca-Cola?
Right. Yeah.
But it is.
But it is for you.
Like that style of content for what we do is better. Yeah. It just is. The results show it clearly. And this is the cool thing about Facebook. You see the results. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I guess, sort of to come way back to jiu-jitsu, I think this is one of the reasons why I love jiu-jitsu and why I love direct response marketing. In a world where everything is politically correct, and in schools you're not allowed to say one guy's better than the other guy or whatever, or he's smarter than him, like, oh, you don't know, he's not smart, he just did better on the test. I'm like, well, he did better on the test consistently for 10 years, so he's smarter or better at school or whatever you want to call it, but like, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, I am slower than Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt is a better runner than I am. Like, there's just no doubt about it. And I feel in general life, you can't say that in a lot of places, but in jiu-jitsu or in sports, you still can. And in direct response marketing, there's very clear, this ad is better than this ad. Danny, if you want to work for us and you think your marketing is great, I think you suck. I think I'm the boss. My ad is better. Let's run both the ads and let's find out who's right. And the fact that I'm your boss has absolutely no relevance. Like, Facebook, people do not care. Like, the results are going to show who's right. They're going to show which ad is better. My opinion isn't worth more than yours. The results are what speak. The results are the only thing that matters. And that's cool about jiu-jitsu. That's cool about sports. That's cool about direct response. And I've always wanted to work in a space like that. I said to my mom when I was very young, my parents, like, upper middle class, work good corporate jobs. And I said to my mom very young, I think possibly before I got into business, maybe not though, that I want to work in a job where I'm rewarded for my performance. Where if I bring in 400k, I want to get 200k of that. And if the guy next to me is better than me, then he should get paid more. If the guy next to me sucks, he should get paid less. She's like, that's cute. When you grow up, you'll see that's not how the world works. I mean, she's right. In most jobs, like, that's not how the world works, especially in Switzerland. The US, there's even like a waitress, you might get paid more if you're better because of tips or whatever. But in Europe, that's not how the world works. But in my life, it has been. And I've always wanted that. I've always been attracted to the truth of that, the realness. And yeah.
Would you say that that's the part of business that gives you the most joy? That if you are worthy of making the money, you will make it. You will make the amount that you're supposed to make because that's the truth of it. And it's not about a salary where you could be making more, you could be making less in a non-performance based job, but the fact that this is the truth. I am making this amount. Is that the part you get the most joy from? And if it's not, what is the part that you get the most joy from?
I think that ties into it. The part I get the most joy from is just the challenge. It's just the challenge of always growing. And same in jiu-jitsu, same with weights, like whatever you're obsessed with, you have to be able to see and measure progress for me. Jiu-jitsu is kind of hard to measure sometimes, but you can see progress, you can feel progress. And I love that. I love learning and seeing myself get better. Languages, jiu-jitsu, business, whatever. That's the thing with business too, where if you go from $0 to $500 a month, you're going to be over the moon happy. If you go from $5,000 to $500 a month, you're going to be very, very sad.
If you tie your
making the same amount of money, but you're
to the work.
If that is the thing that you're pursuing and that's the thing that you're trying to see progress in. And if you're stagnating at 5k a month, the number that used to make you so happy is now not going to give you joy. Just one of those things. Cool thing about business is, well, the cool thing and the bad thing is that it's a never-ending game and people can get caught up in it. So unlike like the gym, for example, like after 10 years of very serious lifting, how much better are you getting in year 11? Sadly, not very much. That's why the newbie gains are so fun. With business, like year 11, you can still like 3x your business. Like you can always have a breakthrough. There's always someone richer.
Yeah.
There's always someone richer unless you're Elon Musk. So,
well,
I don't know. It's a never-ending game, as is jiu-jitsu, as are a lot of things.
As is direct response. And so that's
as is direct response.
That's a common theme, the never-ending game, and that you're playing. And before we go to a close, I'd love to ask a final question of what advice you have for someone pursuing the highest version of themselves, whether that's mentally, physically, spiritually, in business, in jiu-jitsu. What is your advice to the person pursuing the highest version of themselves?
It's very simple. You just have to show up every day. And the hard part is not getting discouraged a month in when you don't have the result that you want, because it just takes time. It's ironic for a 22-year-old to say that it takes time, but I mean, I guess I'm 10 years in, so it's like everything just takes time. It's, I don't know, it was one of the billionaires, Bill Gates, or someone said it, Steve Jobs, someone said it, someone smarter said it, so trust me. It's like you people underestimate what they can do in the short term, and they overestimate what they can do in the short term, they underestimate what they can do in the long term. That's the crux of it. I think it's very true. It's like, I never thought that I could do what I do in business, but if you stick at it for 5, 6, 7 years, you can do crazy things. And just try not to compare yourself to others. Just keep showing up every day. Enjoy the process, which is always easier said than done. But some of those, again, it's the nice parallel between jiu-jitsu, business, learning languages. It's all the same. It's all the same. You just have to enjoy the process. So if you get pissed off because you're not speaking Spanish yet, a weekend, it's going to be rough for you. But if you're excited because you notice a weekend that you're a lot better than you were on day 2, which you will be, like 7 days in, you're going to be a lot better than you were 2 days in. So if you just like take joy in the progress and not look at the progress rather than at where you're trying to get, if that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense. Wise beyond your 22 years. Where can people connect with you further?
Oh shit! I meant to prepare this because I was thinking today at the gym. I don't actually know my Twitter handle. My Twitter handle is at Scotty _SSS. Good old Start Selling Stuff, a defunct website.
There you go, Scotty.
You can find me there. I don't tweet much. If you have questions for me, if you want to talk shit, send me a DM. Say you're from the podcast. I do a show with Nate once a week, the Ecom Dispensary. Also don't know the URL for that.
Is it ecomdispensary.com?
Yeah, it's ecomdispensary.com, and then you'll be redirected to it. It's like $9 a week we charge. It's kind of a podcast. We do like 4 or 5 episodes a week talking about ecom mindset, lifestyle stuff, just shooting the shit. And really the idea for that was how it's funny, you go through this phase where you're like, when you get started, you're like, only consume actionable content. Don't consume motivational content. Don't consume like bullshit content. Don't consume mindset content. It's all useless. Only actionable stuff. And you do that for a while, and then maybe you have results, you don't have results, whatever. What you realize like 5 years down the line is that the mindset stuff's actually the only thing that matters. Like the mindset, the way you think about it, the tactics don't actually matter. It's all about the way you think about it. That content that you used to talk shit about is actually the only thing that matters. It's one of those funny things that we noticed when we were listening to, like, there's a YouTube channel, I don't know what it's called. They changed the name of it. There's just interviews with a lot of really high level ecom guys, and there's no actionable advice in it. They're just interviews. But that's the best content on YouTube. It's the same with like, don't go watching dropshipping videos on YouTube. Go watch a speech by Dan Kennedy. Like, go listen to interviews with the old school direct response guys. Those hour-long videos that have 580 views, that's the great content. And the reason why it's great isn't necessarily for anything you're going to learn. It's because it makes you think about business or marketing 24/7. And whatever you think about, you're going to have ideas for. If I'm obsessed with jiu-jitsu and not so obsessed with business, I might work 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day or whatever. But when I'm lying in bed at night, I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu. And the reverse is also true. I might be working only 4 hours, but thinking about business all the time. I go to jiu-jitsu, and the moment I leave, I don't no longer think about it. The person, whatever you focus on, whatever your subconscious thinks about when you're just idle, that's where you're going to have a lot of ideas and breakthroughs. And I think content is important to keep you thinking about the thing you want to be focused on. If I want to be focused on the gym, I listen to gym content. If I want to be focused on business, I listen to business content. If I want to be all in on jiu-jitsu, I'm consuming nothing but jiu-jitsu content. And it's less so about the time consuming the content, but more so about sort of the after effect of you walking around the city thinking about jiu-jitsu or business or whatever it is.
You know, I think that was the perfect place to close, because that is an incredible statement about the importance of what we focus on. And I've seen that happen in my own life, and I'm so grateful you took the time to do this. And hopefully we'll be able to do it sometime soon in person or maybe virtually. Time will have to tell, but thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. You're a pretty good interviewer. Have people told you that?
Once or twice. If you do it 180 times.
Once or twice, right?
If you do it 180 times, you're bound to get good or at least get better than what you were. So thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All right. It's great talking to you, man.